Life becomes meaningful when you become inspired, make objectives, and pursue them with all your might. A very warm good morning and a hearty welcome to all for the first expert lecture of the academic year titled Forensic Ballistics. A day without prayer is a day without blessing. A life without prayer is a life without power. With these thoughts, we will begin this expert lecture by invoking God's blessings. Request the Christo choir to join to lead us in a prayer song.
I have a maker. He formed my heart before even time began. My life was in His hands. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear that falls and hears me when I call. I have a Father. He calls me His own. He'll never leave me, no matter where I go. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear that falls and hears me when I call. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear that falls and hears me when I call. And hears me when I call.
Forensic ballistics is the branch of forensic science that deals with the examination of firearm and related evidence found at the scene of a shooting incident, as well as their relationship to the firearm and identification of the shooter. As a result, it is the scientific science that aids in the derivation of information admissible in a court of law or other parts of the legal system pertaining to the use of bullets in a crime. With the rise in firearm crimes, knowledge of forensic ballistics is becoming increasingly important. The aim of today's guest lecture is to impart a scientific understanding of current practice for forensic ballistics used within a forensic science context and the strengths and limitations of the current interpretation. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Manish Malhotra, sir, for the first expert lecture of the academic year.
Thank you so much.
Sir, we deem it an honor to have you in our midst. We thank you for accepting our invitation. We welcome you, sir. I also take this opportunity to acknowledge the management fathers of Christo Jayanti College, Bangalore, ably led by the principal, Reverend Dr. Augustine George, and vice principal, Father Lijo P. Thomas, who have always led by the example and ensured to provide a proactive and vibrant environment for students to learn. I also welcome the Dean, Faculty of Sciences, Dr. Callistus Jude, and Mr. Don Cairo, the coordinator of Department of Forensic Science, to this session. Welcome, sirs. I also welcome the faculty members of the department, each one by name, and thank them for their hard work and dedication towards everyday progress in the department. Welcome, ma'am. and sir. I also specially welcome the participants, our dear students of the Department of Forensic Science, to the session. We hope this session will enlighten you and provide you deeper insights in the field of forensic ballistics. We welcome all of you. Without further ado, I request Dr. Suchita Rawat, Assistant Professor, to introduce the chief guest for today's guest lecture.
Thank you, madam. I deem it a privilege to introduce an active, young, and resourceful personality to the audience. Dr. Manish Malhotra is an experienced investigator and forensic expert. Sir was awarded a UGC JRF scholarship to complete his doctoral dissertation at Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Vishwavidyalaya in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh, India. Sir has extensive experience working in various capacities in forensic science laboratories. Sir worked as a senior scientific assistant physics at FSL in Bihar, Patna from 2018 to 2020. Sir was then appointed as senior scientific assistant physics at FSL Delhi from 2020 to 21. At present, Sir is appointed as Scientist B Physics at the Central Forensic Science Laboratory, Bhopal. His routine work entails examining and reporting on crime scene exhibit in forensic physics, computer forensic, mobile forensic, and audio video forensic. Apart from his routine work, Sir delivers lecture and training to trainee officers and students from various national and international organizations. Sir's research interests include forensic ballistic, forensic physics, computer, mobile phone forensic, audio video forensic, facial recognition, forensic photography, and question document. Sir has numerous research articles published in peer-reviewed Scopus Index journals. With this repute career, we feel it an honor to have Sir in our midst to address the first expert lecture of this academic year. Now, I request Sir to address the gathering.
First of all, thank you very much for these kind words and a very warm welcome. And uh, first of all, very good morning to all. And Without a delay, I think I should start my presentation because it's getting late for you guys also. Uh, so, should I start if it is permitted?
Yes, 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 sir. Yes.
So, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
And presentation is visible also?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay. So let's start with the forensic ballistics as it is the first lecture. So I will be considering the topics that has to be learned while studying forensic ballistics primarily. So let's start with the introduction part. So to understand forensic ballistics, we have to understand the keywords, both of the keywords, what is the forensic and what is ballistics, and what is the combined terminology that is forensic ballistics. So first of all, ballistics is this science or a study that deals with the motion and the behavior and the effects of the projectile. Whether it is any projectile, it doesn't necessarily means whether it like it should be from a firearm. So ballistics can be applied anywhere when a projectile is involved and its behavior and emotion is involved. So when we are applying that information or knowledge or that application of that science in forensic aspects, so that study becomes forensic ballistics. So in forensically important projectiles are bullets, shots, etc. So concerning that, forensic ballistics becomes the investigation of firearms, ammunition, and the legal problems arising with that. Uh, Ballistics in general or forensic ballistics in general can be explained as like a study of as I said, the study of a projectile motion. So projectile, when concerns with the forensic ballistics, uh, so it deals with the firearm. So when the motion starts inside the firearm, motion of a projectile site inside the firearm, and when it leaves the barrel, and then it impacts the target. So on the basis of these three phenomena, forensic ballistic can be subdivided into three main groups. First is internal ballistics, when the projectile is inside the firearm, and when it leaves the barrel of the firearm, and when a projectile is in the air, it is known as the external ballistics. And when projectile hits a target, that becomes terminal ballistic. When a target is a human body or a living body, so then it is termed as wound ballistic. So interballistics is like interplay of firearms and ammunition and study of action mechanism, because for the motion of projectile to happen inside the firearm, there are various entities that plays a role, uh, which is firearms, ammunition, and the action mechanism of the firearm. So when a projectile leaves the barrel of the firearm, so it considers under the external ballistic, and the effect of the air, effect of the gravity, effect of its own motion is studied in the external ballistics. And when the projectile just touches or strikes the target or a human body, uh, accordingly. So that study of the impact is study is of the impact is known as the terminal ballistics. So in forensic ballistics, there are three things to study. Basically, first is the firearm. We have to have the knowledge of a firearm, and second is the ammunition. Ammunition is which gives power to the firearm, and third is the use of the firearm, or its use on a target. So these three are the basic components that need to be studied to understand the basics of the ballistic. So let's start with the firearm. So firearm is a device which propels a projectile with the help of some power. That power could come from expansion of gases, or by and expansion of gases can be also be by the compression of the gases. Then it is made into expansion, or the burning of propellants, the burning of explosive material, or it could be by mechanical power also. So with the help of any kind of power, it propels a projectile. So whatever propels a projectile by using some kind of power, that instrument is known as firearm. So basically, in forensic ballistics or in general uses, there are in handguns. There are fire guns that can be classified into handguns, shoulder arms, and long arms. So in handguns, there are two types of firearms involved. What is revolver, and second is pistol. So just for reference purposes, here is the image of both revolver and pistol, so that we can see that different parts, and we can understand the parts. So whenever we talk about firearm, firearm always consists of three things. One is lock, second is stock, and third is barrel. So the barrel is the part, that the cylindrical tube part, which which is used to provide direction to a projectile. So to support that cylindrical tube, the supporting components are known as stock, and the action mechanism, the trigger mechanism, and hammer and sparring pin mechanism. These the mechanism to which initiates the process of propelling the uh, projectile by using some power, is known as lock. So these three are the main components of a firearm: lock, stock, and barrel. So whenever these three components are there, it is identified as a firearm. So in revolver, there are to support the lock stop barrel. Barrel is always there. Barrel has two ends. The front end from where the projectile emerges in from the firearm. That point is known as muzzle end, and the opposite end is known as the breech end, from where the chamber is located and the cartridge is uh, put in the chamber. So, and the other wooden part or handle and grip, these are the part of stock, which are the supporting structure of the firearm. And the third is the trigger mechanism, the chamber mechanism, hammer. These are the parts responsible for uh, initiating the uh, journey or initiating the uh, motion of a projectile. So these are the these comes under the action mechanism of a firearm. And firearm itself is harmless until and unless it is given with the power of ammunition. All the power resides within the ammunition. So what is ammunition basically? So in forensic ballistics, ammunition refers to cartridges, primers, propellants, or projectiles commonly used in small arms or even in shoulder arms also. So ammunition is an assembly. The single most unit of an ammunition is known as a cartridge. So basically, cartridge or ammunition is an assembly which provides power to firearm. So how does it provide a power to firearm? So should be a projectile. So in case of rifled firearms, projectile is generally bullet. So here in the picture you can see there is a bullet projectile. Then there is a casing which consists of at the head of the casing there is a primer or a primer contained in percussion cap. There is a small cap kind of thing which contains primer. Primers are actually high explosives in a small quantity which detonates on shock or on pressure. And inside the cartridge case there is low explosive known as propellant powder, gunpowder, etc. There are different types of propellant powder, gunpowder, smokeless powder, semi-smokeless powders, single base, double base, triple base, etc. So these propellant powders are there inside the cartridge case. So this is the assembly of a typical ammunition or a cartridge. So here you can see it clearly that at the base or at the head there is a primer, and inside it's a propellant. Uh, left one is the typical assembly of a rifled cartridge of a rifled firearm, and in the right side you can see cartridge of a smooth bore firearm. So smooth bore or rifled firearms are those in which barrel is rifled or smooth. Rifled means there are some grooves or not. Just like in handguns and shoulder arms, uh, mostly the rifling is used to provide the stability to the bullet. So in those firearms, the left picture is shown for the cartridge, and the right one is for the smooth bore firearms, where the barrel is smooth. There is no rifling. So in smooth bore firearms, there are multiple. There could be multiple projectiles, as you can see in the picture also. So let's know. So this is the introduction to the like components of the ballistics, what is the firearm and what is ammunition, and everybody knows what is a target. So what actually forensic ballistics deals practically? Uh, there are some issues in forensic ballistics. First is uh, the question that arises during a crime involving a firearm is whether the cartridge cases are the remnant casing of the cartridge assembly. So whether the cartridge cases or projectiles recovered from a scene of crime or a victim or accused, that those cartridge cases and cartridge ammunition assemblies have been fired from the suspected firearm or not. So this is one of the questions. Another, which type of firearm has been used in commission of crime? Like what is the caliber? Caliber means the diameter of the barrel. What is the caliber, make, model, and type of action of the firearm is used? Whether the firearm is in proper functioning condition or not, whether it can be accidentally discharged or not, whether a criminal case is a case of accidental firing or not, and whether there are any serial numbers or details on the firearm which might have been erased, then whether it can be restored or not. So, and in case of firing, what was the range of firing? Who had fired the gun? What was the direction of the firing to reconstruct a crime scene? Whether an alleged firearm has been fired or not. Whether if you are finding a firearm, whether a firing has been done with it or not. Whether a firearm is a firearm as defined in the Indian Arms Act or not. Because as per the definition, everything that can propel a projectile can be considered as firearm. But in Indian Arms Act, a firearm is defined. So whether that definition applies to the Indian Arms Act according to Indian Arms Act or not, if you are finding a firearm. So what time has elapsed since last firing? Whether the given firearm cartridge combination can prove lethal at a given distance or not. Yeah, how many firearms have been used in a crime? So these are the questions that arises during the investigation of a crime involving firearms and ammunition. So these questions are very helpful in solving a crime by investigating officers and investigating agencies. What number of shots have been fired, and whether all the shots hit the victim or not. Uh, so whether some evidence has been planted or not, whether a firearm has been allegedly planted or maliciously planted. Yeah, what is the entrance wound on a body, or what is the exit wound? Whether a single projectile can create multiple wounds or not. These kind of questions are generally asked by investigating officers for the forensic investigation. So by studying all those things, the basics of the forensic ballistics, we can answer all the questions arising during the investigation. So but before that, before answering those questions, one should know as an expert how to handle or collect or pack a firearm evidence, a firearm related evidence from the scene of crime. Because handling and collection is very important, because firearm is a weapon. Weapon can be used in any ways, and it can be harmful to a handler also. So firearm evidence can be obtained from a crime scene, the victim, etc. And the also the fired cartridges and bullets can be recovered from the uh, crime scene, or even the culprit or the victim. So whenever a firearm is recovered from a scene of crime, these particulars or these criteria should be also noted. What is the type of the firearm and what is the make of the firearm? The type means what is it kind of? Is it a handgun? Is it a shoulder firearm? A long firearm? And if it is a handgun, whether it is a revolver or pistol? And if it is a revolver or pistol, whether it is a standard revolver or pistol, or improvised or a country made pistol, it has been illicitly made firearm. And if it is a standard one, so what is the serial number of that firearm, which might be able to help to link that firearm to a specific organization or a specific person. So and the what is the caliber? If you are finding a firearm, whether it is a country made or a standard, doesn't matter. But what is the caliber? What type of cartridge it can fire? What kind of bullet it can propel out? What kind of shots it can propel out? So what is the caliber? Caliber is the as I told earlier, caliber is the diameter of the barrel actually. So what is the caliber? Caliber is very specific characteristic of firearm. So what is the caliber, and whatever other information that can be found out, it should be noted down. So after collection and packaging, first of all, you have noted down all this information, and you have to handle the firearm very carefully. There are some commandments related to firearm, that if you are collecting a firearm, so firearm should be treated as it is loaded. It is always loaded. So you have to collect firearm considering it is loaded. So you have to pick it up carefully from a scene of crime and unload it carefully. uh, and you can unload it by if you have the knowledge of the action mechanism of the firearm. Yeah, what is the action mechanism? Don't ever press the trigger. Don't ever put a lay finger on your lay your finger on the trigger. uh, then after unloading it, make sure that there is no cartridges in the chamber, there are no cartridges in the magazine, etc. So after satisfying the safety from the firearm, or the security from the firearm to the other persons and to self, you can collect it in such a way that it does not get damaged. Uh, so after collection and packaging and everything, it is to be sent to the forensic lab for the examination, and to answer the questions asked by the IO. So the general examination that is done, it depends on it is based on the one principle of a forensic science, which is known as principle of individuality. So what does it say? It says that any two objects cannot have identical features throughout. So each and every object is individual in itself in features, the overall features. If you're taking the each and every feature of a object, each and every characteristic of an object, it is identical. It cannot resemble another object. So everything is unique. So when the principle of individuality is how does it apply to the firearm evidences? So each and every bullet that has been fired from a firearm, it bears those identical, sorry, individual marks of that firearm, because each firearm is individual. So when the cartridge is fired, it comes in contact with the various parts of firearm. So firearm leaves its individual features. So in this case, another principle is involved, which is Locard's exchange principle, uh, or with Locard's principle of exchange, uh, which says that every contact leaves traces. So uh, cartridge or ammunition comes in contact with the firearm in the process of the firing. So it leaves, or it exchanges the traces, or it exchanges the each other's features. So the firearm undergoes various processes, such as in the production of firearm. When a firearm is produced, it is goes under the processes such as cutting, hammering, polishing, rimming, etc., etc. And while producing the for rifling, also it has been cut from the inside and all. So these type of mechanical and other processes, these produces irregularities or microscopic features randomly distributed inside the barrel of firearm, and on the components, each and every component of a firearm. So when a firearm is fired, these features, which can be classified into two parts, first is class characteristic and second is individual. These features are transferred to the bullets and the cartridge cases. So class characteristics are those which can shortlist uh, object into a group, and individual characteristics are those characteristics which can shortlist a single object apart from other objects. So a fired cartridge contains, like if a cartridge has been fired, so um, it borrows some marks from the firearm. Those might be individual or class characteristic or class features marks. So first is the firing pin mark. So there comes the firing pin marks on a cartridge case, which is over the percussion cap, in which I earlier told that the percussion cap is used to contain the primer, low explosive, to detonate. So to detonate it, you have to give a pressure. So that what during the action mechanism, during the firing process, whatever strikes it, that pin is known as firing pin. So it gives a mark on that percussion cap. Then there is a breech face mark. As I already told earlier, breech is the end, the other side of the end of, from where the chamber is located, and uh, that breech end is known as because of the breech face. Breech face is a part of the stock which faces the breech end of the barrel. So that breech face has some irregularities on it. So it produces marks on the cartridge. Another is chamber marks. The chamber is a component which holds the cartridge during the process of firing, and these contain of the wall. So the chamber marks are there. Extractor marks are there. In case of semi-automatic and automatic firearms, there is extractor mechanism to automatically extract out the fired cartridge cases and fire, fire cartridge cases from the chamber. And ejector is in the same semi-automatic and automatic firearms, which helps in the extraction of the ejecting out the uh, cartridge case, fired cartridge case. So this is a typical action mechanism or firing mechanism. So you can see when we press the trigger, this firing pin, green color firing pin, is uh, it strikes the percussion cap here. So percussion cap contains low explosive, it detonates. So while detonating, it produces flames. So those flames from a flash hole, or from a hole known as flash hole, goes to the propellant powder. Propellant powder is a low explosive, so by igniting it, it combusts or it deflagrates. By deflagrating, it converts into gaseous gases. So those gases on expansion creates pressure. So they creates pressure, and they ejects the or the propels the projectile out of the barrel. And also these create the pressure on the head of the cartridge also, and along the chamber, along the walls. So due to all of these pressures involved, uh, two objects, firearm and ammunition, comes in contact with some force. So tool marks, these are the tools. So tool marks appears on the softer material, which is cartridge case. So here the firing pin lies inside the breech face. So breech face marks appears on the head of the uh, cartridge case. Firing pin marks appear on the percussion cap, and chamber marks appear on the walls of the cartridge case. Uh, as you can see that these sliding drag marks, slide scuff mark, firing pin marks, ejector marks, breeches mark, these marks appears on the fired cartridge case accordingly. Uh, so these kind of marks are the individual characteristics of a firearm. These striation marks and punched marks. These are the, and when a bullet is being propelled out from a barrel, So barrel also, it scrapes the barrel, and the barrel leaves these kind of striation marks on the bullet. In case of rifling, these are no, in case of a standard firearm where there is a rifling, it is known as rifling marks also. This is the ejector which create a mark on the rim of the cartridge case. So how these marks are helpful in solving the queries of an IO? So these marks are used to compare, as we have already, as I have already told earlier, that these marks are individual in nature. Or so so these can be compared to identify its origin. For example, we are having two cartridges, and we want to know whether these two cartridges have been fired from single firearm. So it is meant by that that firearm having individual characteristics should be on these two cartridges. So how can we make sure that these two cartridges bear the same individual characteristic or same signature of a firearm? So we have to compare it. So the process of the comparison is done by the microscope, which is known as comparison microscope. So comparison microscope is basically a combination of two compound microscopes like clubbed together. So we can in a typical compound microscope, we can see one sample, and we can observe one single slide or single object, and we can view it. But in this comparison microscope, as the two microscopes are clubbed together, we can view two objects simultaneously, and we can compare these objects also in single view. So in comparison microscope, as in one side we can keep a reference fired cartridge, or in second evidence fired cartridge, and whatever the cartridge cartridge cases or bullets that we want to compare, we can keep in from on the left and right side. And this kind in this position, like in left hand there is an evidence, and right side there is a reference heavy bearing some individual marks. So in the comparison microscope's view eyepiece, the top of the cartridge case will be showing like this. So we can compare side by side the marks on the cartridge case, whether these are continuous marks or similar marks. uh, so as I told earlier, that we have to compare these kind of marks, which are known as firing pin marks, breech face marks, chamber marks, ejector marks, extractor marks on the cartridge case. Uh, so this is the breech having some marks. There is a firing pin also. So these there are some microscopic marks. So these comes on the cartridge case. Uh, these replicates, or these get transferred on the cartridge case. So these kind of marks can be compared on the cartridges using a comparison microscope. So this is a this type of mark is a ejector marks. This is an extractor marks there, which is used to extract out the cartridge case. So as you can see, the striations are very continuous. There is a midline here. In the left side there is some other cartridge, and the right side there is some other cartridge. You can see the microscopic marks are very similar, and they are matching. So if they are matching, that means these two cartridges have been fired from a same firearm. This is a case of a firing pin marks, where you can see that marks are matching, and it is looking like there is a single mark, a single firing pin mark. But these are two different cartridges viewed under the uh, comparison microscope. Uh, as you can see, the shape of firing pin mark is very similar here. Likewise, in the breaches, marks are the continuous and form of a striation. Yeah. So in case this was the case of the cartridge cases, but in case of bullets, uh, as I already told you, there are two types of barrels we can found. There is a smooth bore barrel or a rifled barrel. So in case of a smooth bore barrel, you can, if you are looking at from the muzzle end of the barrel, you can see that there is no irregularity, or there is a very smoothness on the barrel. There is a complete cylindrical cylinder. But in a rifled barrel, there are some grooves cut inside the barrel. These grooves are these grooves also creates the uh, outward everted uh, feature known as lands. So these lands and grooves creates mark on the bullet. These lands are the everted portion, and the grooves are the depth. So the land impression comes in the form of a groove, and the groove impression comes in the form of a land on a bullet, because it is the negative impression on a bullet. So this is the bullet, and you can see that there is a band. This band is the landmark. Landmark, or under the sidewise is the groove mark. So inside the landmarks, there are some striation marks also, uh, which are the resultant of the sliding motion of the bullet with the barrel. So these are the compared to identify the origin of the cartridges, or origin of the bullet. Yeah, likewise, these are the station marks. Okay. Okay. So here ends the a typical introduction of a forensic ballistics, and how it is used practically. So thank you all for listening, and I would like to invite questions if there are some.
Thank you, sir, for the engaging and profound session. If the students have any question, they can unmute and ask the question one by one.
Sir, what is the most commonly used gun to commit crimes in India?
The most common gun that I have encountered is the .315 or 8 mm country-made firearm, country-made pistol. 0.315-inch caliber, or you can say 8 mm caliber, 8 mm diameter barrel firearm, which the country-made firearms are very commonly used in India. So the .315 oblique 8 mm in 8 mm pistol.
Thank you, sir. And how do you differentiate between accidental and intentional firing of a gun?
These all depends on the by accident, like for example, accidental firearm, accidental discharge or a firing happens when there is some fault with the firearm. So whether a trigger pull is very less, a trigger pull is very hard. For example, if you are dropping a firearm and trigger pull is very less, so it can accidentally discharge a bullet. So for that, we need to see the action mechanism of the firearm, whether it is in proper working condition or not, whether there are some faults or not, whether a spring is loose or not, whether the trigger pull is less than the normal trigger pull or not, whether it is higher than the normal trigger pull or not. So these kind of the action mechanism is studied in the case of in the cases, whether it has to be determined whether the case is of accidental discharge or a intentional discharge.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one doubt.
Yes, sir.
Sir, nowadays we have 3D printed firearms as well, which is basically made of polymers and plastic. So the examination of those guns are similar to the typical guns, or is it different?
Uh, it is very much similar. It has like the firearm examination or the cartridge cases and bullet examination is based solely on the individual characteristics and class characteristics. So it doesn't matter what type of material you are using. So any object is individual in its nature, so it will leave its individual marks. So the mechanism, if you are 3D printing a firearm, that doesn't necessarily mean you are changing its mechanism or changing its way how it fires. So it will fire in the same manner. So those marks will come in same manner also.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Students, any other questions?
So, what's your opinion on the gun violence in India?
The non-violence in India, gun violence.
Gun violence.
Okay. Gun violence in India, in my opinion, actually, in my opinion, it's all due to like psychology of human. It's all depends on the human psychology, because you are a human without a weapon, you feel powerless. Whenever if you are holding a knife, if you are holding a weapon, if you are holding any stick, you will feel powerful. So the urge to become a powerful man or powerful human uh, is behind all these crimes. And in India, because of the social structures, because of the poverty, and because of there is a disparity in social, economic and social structure, the gun violence is very much common, and it is increasing day by day. And another thing is that the improvised guns are readily available to the local people, and it is being manufactured, and the knowledge of the firearm making is very common among people in some areas. So it is increasing day by day.
Thank you.
Sir, by the firing pattern, can we identify whether it is suicidal or murder?
Whether it is
Suicidal or murder?
suicidal or murder, by examining the firing pattern, yes, we can identify. There are in suicide and in suicidal firing and homicidal firings, there are different features. There are classified features. If I have if I will be given another chance for some lecture, so I'll be showing the difference, the how death happens with the firearm, and what are the features of suicidal, accidental, and homicidal firing. So we can easily identify, and with the help of circumstantial evidences also, but with the help of the primary evidences of firing and examining the wounds, we can surely identify whether it is a suicidal one or a homicidal one.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any existing database of weapons in India, sir? Commonly existing weapons in India?
No.
Bullets, sir?
No.
Things like IBIS, BDAS is not yet implemented.
IBIS is there. IBIS has been started implemented a long time ago, but it was a failure.
Okay.
It was a failure in India because in India, most of the firearm related crimes are related to country made and improvised firearms, for which a database cannot be prepared.
Correct.
It is very difficult. So IBIS has failed in India, like as at present, as of now.
Yes, sir. Some other student had a question.
So can we use suppressor or something in a gun so that the sound and all won't be, you know?
I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it again, please?
A person uses suppressor or a silencer in a gun so that the intensity of the sound in the gun is
Those suppressor and silencer only minimizes. One second, let me answer first. the suppressor and the silencer only diminishes the sound, but it doesn't eradicate the sound. It doesn't make it soundless. So uh, I'm not I'm not able to hear your question.
So what all are the preliminary examinations that we are using in the crime scene for GSR identification?
GSR identification is not generally done on the scene of crime. Only the swabs of for the collection of the GSR is taken on the crime scene so that it can be analyzed in the laboratory further. So the nitric acid swabs or HCl swabs can be taken on the crime scene, and it can be collected and preserved for the further analysis in the laboratory.
Sir?
Yeah.
How to differentiate between entry wound and exit wound?
Entry wound and exit wound can be differentiated by examining the surroundings of the bullet hole or entry wound or a wound. If it is having a features like burning, tattooing, charging, etc., so it can immediately identified as an entry wound. But in case these are not these are not present, so entry and exit wound can be identified by microscopically examining the fibrous tissues around the bullet hole, and if there is a bone present, though, so what is the motion of the bone fragments in that. So there are many characteristics that can be helpful in identifying the entry wound and exit wound.
Sir, this is Mohammed Irshad. Sir, which is the most commonly gun used for long range shooting?
For long range shooting in sports, it's 0.22 inch firearm and 0.315 inch sporting rifle.
Thank you, sir, for patiently answering all the questions from our students. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has a cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flames within us. With these thoughts in mind, I invite Ms. Chetana, Assistant Professor, Department of Forensic Science, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a great privilege and honor for me to deliver the vote of thanks today for such an informative lecture. I would like to thank Dr. Manish Malhotra, who spared time with us today from his busy schedule and shared with us his opinions and findings. The lecture was very much in detail, covering the firearms, their components, the comparison process, and many more things. Thank you so much, sir. Our students have learned a lot from you and your experience today. Also, I would like to specially thank for answering the question raised by our students so patiently. The session would not be possible without the support and guidance of the member of the management led by Principal Reverend Father Augustine George and the Vice Principal Reverend Father Lijo P. Thomas. Thank you, Father. I extend my gratitude to Dr. Callistus Jude, Dean Faculty of Sciences, Christo Jayati College, for encouraging us to strive better and helping us in conducting such programs. Thank you, sir. The smooth conduct of the guest lecture is because of the faculty member of the Department of Forensic Science. I thank all the teachers for coordinating the program to make it a success, and a very special thank to Dr. Suchita Rawat for arranging this session for the department. Thank you, ma'am. I also thank all the students of BSc and MSc Forensic Science for being such a great audience, for their patient listening and asking their doubts to make this session interactive. Thank you, dear students. I would like to extend my thanks to IT Department of Christo Jayanti College for providing necessary resources to conduct this event and ensuring there was no technical glitches throughout the session. Thank you, one and all. As we have come to the end of the program, I request all to join for the college anthem.
Like a golden disc, sun in the rising east, lights up a life divine, fills knowledge in our minds. Laurels and the book make us sublime. With the mighty Lord, we soar high on the bedrock of faith. Integrity of force, human dignity true, excellence we strive. Christu giant delight and prosperity. Christu giant delight and prosperity. Raise the joy and peace, sprawl our hearts and minds. On we march our goals as a beacon for the world, with a passion for our growth and a love for humankind, united and strong in excellence on the bedrock of faith. Integrity of force, human dignity true, excellence we strive. Christu giant delight and prosperity. Christu giant delight and prosperity.
I request the participants to turn on their videos for a photo screenshot of the session. A feedback link will be shared on your WhatsApp groups. Student participants can fill the feedback form. The link will also be shared through all the WhatsApp groups. So I want all the students to fill this form as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and Christu Jayanti College administration to give me opportunity to interact with students after a very long time.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
May I end the?
Yeah, I will end the meeting, sir. No problem. Thank you.